Hello there and welcome to the channel. I think the question of whether Israel owns the United States has already been answered. There is no need for further proof. It is clearly visible through numerous public statements made by influential US politicians, as well as through the way the United States behaves in the Middle East, their overall foreign policy, and of course, the war with Iran. We first need to understand the Israel-US connection and how evil and corrupt the Zionist Trump administration is. It is more than obvious that Trump, along with the majority of US politicians on both sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republicans alike, are essentially bought, blackmailed, and controlled by Israel. It is public knowledge that the political campaigns of an alarming number of Republican and Democratic representatives in Congress are financed by powerful Zionist families, individuals, and organizations.
Are you mad at Israel?
I guess. Oh no. I'm hardly the one who's. I've never taken money from the Israel lobby. Have you?
Taken money from the Israel...
From AIPAC.
So AIPAC raises a lot of money for me, but it's actually a misnomer because the people who raise money are individuals.
The actions of these Zionists can be explained by their strong belief that they are genetically and spiritually superior to everyone else, or simply put, that they are Jewish supremacists. Like most politicians in power in the United States and the collective West, Trump is also bought and paid for by the Israeli lobby. His presidential campaign received hundreds of millions of dollars from AIPAC, the Israeli lobby in the United States, and now the time for repayment has arrived. Not only was Trump financed by them, but his daughter, Ivanka, is married to Jared Kushner, who is an evil Jewish supremacist. She has also converted to Judaism, and I believe there is a strong possibility that Donald Trump himself converted in secret. One of the many signs that lead me to this conclusion is that he did not place his hand on the Bible while taking the oath of office for his second term, as well as this.
Special thanks to someone who truly loves Israel. In fact, loves it so much that my daughter converted. My daughter converted. And Bibi, you do know this was not in the cards for me. You understand that.
And he loves Israel too.
It's true.
6 years ago, I was up here, and I said, "This is our first Jewish president."
It's true.
Now he's the first Jewish president to serve two.
I wish these were the only reasons for Trump to do Israel's bidding in the Middle East, but I suspect there is more at play. What I mean is Trump's unusual connection with Epstein, which obviously spanned decades and can clearly be seen in the countless photographs in which they appear together. Trump was not only funded by the Israeli lobby and influenced by his daughter and his son-in-law, but it also seems likely to me that he is being blackmailed by Israeli intelligence. The main indicator of this is that the Israeli-controlled US Congress has not released all of the Epstein files and has not opened a full-scale investigation into Epstein, his clients, and his operations. To me, this clearly suggests that they are protecting people who are still in power, and I suspect Trump may be one of them. Looking back, it is incredibly ironic and hypocritical that Trump's presidential campaign was entirely peace-oriented. He spoke constantly about peace and avoiding new wars. He promised to end the Russia-Ukraine war within days, but it seems he overestimated his negotiating abilities, or perhaps his main foreign policy advisor and son-in-law had entirely different plans. When I say different plans, I mean the same plans as Israel, because the endgame in Ukraine appears obvious. Their Jewish president, Zelensky, has publicly stated that he wants to transform Ukraine into a larger version of Israel. When we add Ursula von der Leyen's comments about Europe needing to become more Jewish and embrace Talmudic values, along with the push to bring Ukraine into the European Union, despite them having one of the most corrupt and evil governments in the world, it all becomes clear as day. Trump campaigned on peace and avoiding new wars, but once elected, he moved in the opposite direction. He continued to arm and finance Ukraine, kidnapped the president of a foreign country, and started a devastating war with Iran without ever providing a good explanation. I believe he was simply ordered to do so, or at the very least successfully influenced or blackmailed by Israeli intelligence and probably manipulated by his son-in-law. There is also the possibility that we are reading the signs incorrectly and that Trump has simply converted to Judaism and adopted Zionist beliefs himself. Whatever the reason, the consequences remain the same: a devastating war with Iran, a proud nation of more than 80 million people, and the successor to ancient Persia. The way this war began was terrifying and heartbreaking. The first victims were the most innocent of all: children. On February 28, 2026, at the Sacred Tree Elementary School for Girls in the city of Manab in Iran, a missile fired by the United States struck the school building and killed 120 innocent children. On the same day, joint Israeli and US strikes also killed Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran. With that, the United States was officially dragged into an unpopular and evil Zionist war by the Israeli lobby and by Israeli-controlled politicians, including Trump. We must also acknowledge the bravery of the Iranian people and the way they fought back against what are supposedly two of the most powerful militaries in the world. Israel and the United States launched surprise attacks during what were supposed to be negotiations over a nuclear agreement between the US and Iran. They used these negotiations as cover for their attack and hoped it would be enough to break the Iranian government and prevent it from fighting back. Instead, the opposite happened. Iran not only survived these initial cowardly attacks, but also responded with coordinated and carefully planned operations. Iran managed to destroy numerous US military bases in the UAE, Qatar, and Kuwait. It also launched constant attacks against Israel, breaching Tel Aviv's air defenses and causing significant destruction, something the United States and Israel clearly did not expect. The situation became so serious that Israel introduced draconian censorship laws threatening prison sentences for anyone attempting to expose the true extent of the losses suffered from these attacks. Another thing they did not expect, for some reason, was the widespread use of FPV drones by Iran and Hezbollah in this war. New videos appear across the internet every day showing FPV drones striking American and Israeli targets. To me, this proves that Israeli forces are accustomed to fighting weaker opponents, while US forces were simply caught off guard and are not adequately trained for this type of warfare. They clearly rely on technological and weapon superiority, but when an FPV drone is chasing you through the desert, none of those advantages can help you. Iran's surprising response has also shown us how limited US military power really is. Most people, myself included, believed that the United States was untouchable and too powerful to challenge. It seems those days have long passed, and if Iran prevails in this war, I believe many countries around the world will stop fearing the United States as much. I think this process of demasking the US military power began during the Russia-Ukraine war, where Russia is obviously fighting US-trained soldiers, many of whom are Americans themselves, using American weapons. Despite this, Russia appears to be winning more than it is losing. This, combined with Russia being Iran's ally, has undoubtedly emboldened Iran to continue fighting instead of collapsing under pressure from both America and Israel at the same time. I do not think anyone genuinely believed that Iran could cause so many problems for the United States and Israel. My fear is that Iran will be bombed and devastated in the same way Gaza was. If the United States and Israel cannot win this war through conventional means, I am concerned that they will resort to bombing cities and civilians. I believe they are capable of doing that. They have already demonstrated it through their genocide in Gaza and through the bombing of Lebanon. We have already partially answered the question of why the United States serves Israel in this and previous wars. It is obvious to me that the US government is bought by AIPAC and other wealthy and influential Zionists and blackmailed by Mossad through information originating from the Epstein files. If that is true, it would mean that the United States is effectively an occupied country that no longer serves the interests of its own people. Instead, it functions as a tool to achieve Zionist goals and agendas. One has to acknowledge the effectiveness of Israel's strategy if it has managed to gain such influence over the most powerful country in the world without ever fighting a direct war. It also raises questions about the true extent of Zionist influence and power in Europe and globally overall. As for Israel's reasons for starting this war, I suspect they are connected to broader Zionist ambitions to dominate the Middle East and ultimately fulfill their dumb, delusional belief of a greater Israel. This is why Israel was created and why the struggle between Zionist and anti-Zionist forces has existed throughout the Middle East and other parts of the world since the establishment of Israel in 1948 and perhaps even earlier. The pro-Zionist governments in the United Kingdom and the United States, for example, orchestrated a revolution in Iran in 1953 to overthrow a government that wanted to nationalize its oil industry and distance itself from the collective West. I believe that this is where it all started and ultimately led to today's event. What gives me hope is how unpopular this war appears to be, especially among younger generations, the very people whom the US-Israeli alliance would ultimately depend on to fight and die for their Zionist interests. It seems to me that more and more people around the world are becoming aware of their evil and delusional policies and ideologies, which are rooted in beliefs that most people neither want nor relate to. I pray that Iran endures and survives this war because I genuinely believe it would be a victory for humanity as a whole and would reshape global politics in ways we have never seen before. It could also mark the beginning of the end for the pro-Zionist establishment within the United States and potentially lead to the end of Israel as we know it today. While I was making this video, it seemed that an agreement was reached between the US and Iran for a ceasefire. The deal also includes Iran receiving $300 billion for the damages they suffered during the war. While all this sounds too good to be true, it will never bring back those who lost their lives because of the psychotic and evil governments of the US and Israel. I doubt that Israel will let this deal to last for long. I'm sure that they will try to breach this agreement in every way they can. It seems that Donald Trump has finally started to develop a conscience and realized that he is doing evil things and murdering innocent people, including children, though I doubt it. It seems more likely that he saw his ratings and popularity declining, while hatred toward Israel, himself, and his government reached new heights, and is now trying to salvage whatever remains of his legacy. If he has only now started to realize his own and Israel's wrongdoing after everything that has happened, then he is even more stupid than he appears. If you got anything at all from this video, please consider subscribing. It would help me a lot. I would also love to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.